Good evening. This is William Ross, and I'm here at the Legal Aid Society of Columbus, and we're here on the normally monthly foreclosure workshop clinic. This clinic is really sponsored by the Franklin County Treasurer, Mr. Edward Leonard. And what we're doing here is that we're doing a tape presentation, because what we're really doing is we're going to take this and just simply put it online. So the homeowners don't have to come in each month, but they can tune in each every time they want to by simply accessing it online at YouTube. So that's what we're doing. I'm an attorney here at the Legal Aid Society of Columbus. I'm here with Kara Crook on behalf of Homeport.
Yes, sir.
And what we want to do is go ahead and to outline or explain to you the process necessary and things you need to know in regards to foreclosure, in terms of how to best protect yourself and what's necessary to do. First of all, this is a judicial state. What do you mean by judicial state? In order for a mortgage company to take possession of your home in this state, they have to file a foreclosure action or an action in court and receive a judgment and take that judgment and foreclose in order to foreclose on your home. Most of the states have a non-judicial system, and the way that works is just simply sending the homeowner a notice. A couple of months later, simply stand on the courthouse grounds and sell the home. So here it is a judicial state, which means that they have to receive a judgment before they can go forward. What we're doing here is trying to give you some understanding about what is going to proceed or what things to anticipate. If you can anticipate the concept or understand it, we watch baseball, football, basketball, and we can follow the proceedings. Why? Because we know the rules. Now, how many people here know the foreclosure rules? And that's what we're here to hopefully give that information to you and give you the information that you need in order so you can keep your home. So that's what we're trying to do.
Absolutely.
Kara is working with Homeport, one of the housing counselors, and personally I always refer to them as being the angels. Why? Because they have the necessary training to know what's necessary or what programs that are out there in order to save your home. And it's clearly important to know what options you have or what programs out there that best suits you. Why? Because the mortgage company, they will give you their options in terms of what best suits them, not you. So it's important for you to understand that you want to understand or get someone who can give you that information to allow you to best suit it to help you keep your home. Let's get started. The first thing we're running into is dealing with the appropriate timeline. If you first missed a payment and wondered what was going to happen, the bank basically says, listen, you missed a payment, we'll turn it over to the collection department by 1 or 2 months. Right. Those are the people who call you on the phone. They're mean, they're nasty, and they are just simply mean. They tell you, you're ugly, the dog is ugly, come down here and pay us some money. If you try to negotiate with them, the only thing you're able to do is to get some type of agreement that you would have to double up on your payments. They don't have the authority to work out any type of arrangements other than that. So what you're really waiting for, and you have to kind of put up with this until it goes 2 or 3 months. Once 2 or 3 months kicks in, what happens is the loss mitigation department. Those are the people you really want to talk to at the mortgage company.
That's true.
They have the ability to renegotiate the terms of the mortgage, to extend the time period that you're paying the mortgage, even reduce the interest rate in a better effort to allow you to keep your home during this process. And but at the same time, or shortly thereafter, the cases were turned over to the foreclosure attorneys. And we always try to get homeowners to make sure, if you can, to try to keep this from happening. Why? Because once the foreclosure attorneys take over or get involved, they immediately assess their legal fees, which starts at least $2,000 being added to the balance that you end up having to pay. So you try to avoid that. But if you find yourself there, what's the next step? That's, of course, requesting some type of mediation. But all during this process, one of the things that I want to let you know that you should consider, do is get a pad and pencil. Anytime you speak to anyone at the mortgage company, anyone at all, make sure you keep their name, the date you contacted them, and what was discussed. It's important that you keep these records. Why? Because the next person you talk to might not have a clue about what you're talking about. And if you come out with some type of agreement, request that agreement in writing. Why? Because this is real estate. You need to make sure everything is done in writing. And when you get that document or any documents from them, make sure you read them carefully. Because sometimes those documents are not what you've been led to believe they should be. Not because they're being crooked or anything, it's because quite often the people who write the documents are not the same people you spoke to on the phone. And that can very easily happen. So that's going to be critical. Also at this stage, make sure that when you're talking to loss mitigation, they probably quit accepting money from you. And when that happens, make sure you save what money you can. If it's a normal payment, you do, because down the road, you're going to need this money. Also, in this foreclosure process, you have to watch it because time the case is filed or in court, that's when your mailbox fills with all of these documents. Everybody in the world is going to send you something. Oh, we can offer you a deal. Just come in and sign up. Now, I've been practicing for a number of years, and I tell you, I can never guarantee the outcome of a case. And if anyone who does, you can guarantee you it's not right. I'm working here at the Legal Aid Society of Columbus, and what we do is free. Home Port, the housing councils, their services are free. And when someone calls you or asks you to pay money, think about that. If the services are available free, don't volunteer to pay. Quite often these guys are not really what they purport to be, and that can be very devastating after paying a lot of money only to find out that they were just a scam trying to take money from you.
And William, we've certainly had people come in who have spent upwards of $1,800. We've seen $1,800, $2,000, $2,500, $3,500 that people will spend on some of these fly-by-night agencies and do nothing for them. And what they need, we offer for free, and that's what we try to get out to people working with housing counselors.
That's right, because there's no sense in throwing away good money. And in this stage, fortunately, we have people out there who just simply prey upon individuals who are desperate. And when you're losing your home or in danger of losing your home, the tendency is to become desperate, looking for some guarantee that you can keep your home. But be careful, because what happens is these people come out the woodwork and they're good at what they do. Paperwork you get in the mail, make sure you look at it carefully and read it carefully. Just today I had a client to come in and brought in a sheet of paper, and it was disguised. At the very small portion of it, it was an advertisement, but it purported to be a legal document. And you have to be very careful about what those documents are. Now, at the same time, you will be receiving legal documents. So make sure you read them extremely carefully, especially the fine print, because it can really be difficult. So the scam artists are good in what they do, and your best way to fight that is simply to be vigilant.
Yeah, and I mean, when in doubt, find out. You know, make a phone call to here at Legal Aid, contact a housing advisor, and just say, can you simply look over this information that I've received in the mail? I'm not sure if it's something that I should respond to or not. And that's something that either of our agencies can do.
Wonderful. That's a great idea. So let's get into the legal process. When you're served, that's when you receive the summons and complaint in the mail. The trick to that is we're requesting you to file a request for extension and a request for mediation. Franklin County has one of the, I should say, the better mediations processes in the state. Initially, when this process was set up, it was Supreme Court Justice Moyer who adopted a mediation process for the entire state. And what that is an opportunity for the homeowners to come in along with the mortgage company to sit down with the homeowner and to go over and try to work out some type of mediation that will allow the homeowner to keep the home. in Franklin County, this process, unless requesting an extension of time to file the answer and to request mediation. Now, this is not the same through all the counties in the state, because there's some jurisdictions that they will allow you to have mediation, but it will not stop the process from going forward. Fortunately, here in Franklin County, it does. So take full advantage of that. After the mediation, the answer is due. Then there's normally a discovery time period where the parties exchange information or file requests for exchange of information. And the case usually proceeds by way of summary judgment, and trial is an option too, but used more foreclosure cases are settled by way of summary judgment. And if that's not successful, a judgment will be granted against you, and there's a sheriff sale. In essence, your property will be set off at a sheriff sale and auctioned off. Usually, in this case, usually the mortgage company is the one that picks it up because they have the largest share, but that's not necessarily the case. After the sheriff sale, the confirmation of sale. What that does is basically the sheriff says it confirms that the monies have been paid for the person who had won the bid at the sheriff sale pays it off. Only then, and after that time, will the sheriff be able to file an eviction action for the homeowner to lose their home. And remember, at any of this stage, you can still negotiate with the mortgage company. And that's a very important thing.
It's very important.
What I try to get the homeowners to do is start working with the housing councils as early as possible, because they're the ones who can assist you and best able to help you keep your home. And if it's getting information to the mortgage company, or quite simply knowing what options that are available, and hopefully getting you on the right track. But if you don't, be careful now, because you have 28 days to respond, and literally at the 29th day, if you don't file an answer, they can move for a default judgment. And that means you lose. Not to say everything is over, but you don't want to get that if you can. And I'll be the first person to tell you I've had cases that come in, even at the sheriff's sale stage, request mediation, have the sheriff's sale suspended, and we were able to get a mortgage modification at that late date. So, like I said, don't give up at this stage. There are a lot of things that can be done, and it's important for you to keep that in mind. In this process, there's also something to watch out for, and this is, I tell homeowners, when you're initially served, you get in the mail what's called a clerk's original case schedule. And this document is somewhat confusing. We'll probably make sure we have a copy of it up. What this says is a schedule of what the court projects as the timeline in the future. But don't be confused, because that timeline will not kick into effect unless an answer is filed. So even though you look at the paperwork and it says, well, it says for a court date a year from now, but you never get there unless you file an answer and request or to keep that from happening within the court. So be very mindful of that, so that you're able to really get it active and making sure that no default judgment is taken against you. Also, to keep in mind that mediation, it's an opportunity for you to sit down with the bank to discuss solutions to avoid foreclosure in confidence. As they say, what goes on in Vegas stays in Vegas. The same thing happens in mediation. When you first get to mediation, there is a document that you fill out and sign, and it's an agreement to mediate. What that document does is basically says that of the people who are present, it gives you an opportunity to sit down and to discuss, what's going on in the case. In practicality, what really happens here is that you sit down, usually with the plaintiff's attorney, and the mortgage company has a representative usually on speakerphone, and they're someplace else. But it still gives you a chance to go sit down and to discuss your case. One of the things about this, though, is that they provide you with an application. Sometimes it's called an RMA, and that form is a list of documents that's necessary for the homeowner to fill out as kind of an application to the mortgage company to let them know a complete status, which includes quite a number of papers. One of which would be 2 copies of the latest income tax returns, copies of the latest bank statements, copies of the last 2 pay stubs, as well as some other documents. But those documents have to be filled out properly, and that's why we insist or try to get the homeowners to work so carefully with the housing counselors. Now, to be perfectly frank, I think the housing counselors are the real angels in this. Why? Because the knowledge that they have and the ability that they have, they can do far more, save far more homes than the attorneys. Why? Because as an attorney, we're limited in terms of what we can do and how long it takes. So if at all possible, make certain that you're working with your housing counselor as closely as possible.
Absolutely.
Because they have the information that you really need. So try to make sure you work with them and in order to save your home. Understand you need a complete copy of that RMA or loss mitigation package, at least 2 weeks before the mediation date. You try to get that to them. Why? Because the mortgage company needs to look at it to make the determination whether or not you're eligible. But work with the housing counselor. Why? Because there's some things that the mortgage company won't tell you. If your documentation is somewhat incomplete, they'll just simply say, well, we can't grant you anything, file a new application. That's not necessary, because if the housing counselor has an opportunity to review your documents, they can make a quick determination. Let me give you an example. You submit your income tax returns. Your income tax returns, even though you file them electronically, the copies you submit to the mortgage company still have to be signed and dated. It doesn't make a difference what date you put on there, but it still has to be signed and dated. Otherwise, they'll send it back to you and say, well, we can't use these documents, submit other documents in. That's one thing to keep in mind. The other thing to keep in mind is that if there is an FHA mortgage and your budget's not balanced, in essence, the amount of money you're spending versus the bills each month, they won't be able to offer you a modification either. Those are just some of the few things that the housing counselors can assist you in, and to hope you get your modification package together. Right. Because that modification package allows the mortgage company to determine what's in your what they can offer in terms of way of a modification. And those documents are crucial at this point.
Yes, and when you request your mediation, though I know you don't have to have that appointment with with a housing counseling agency, with a housing counselor, but it's certainly good to try to jump in at least no later than that point in your preparation for mediation to try to see a housing advisor, because we can go through that budget with you. We can help you prepare that budget. We can help you with the documentation that you are submitting. We can help you understand things like put your loan number on each and every page that you're sending in. We can make sure that your pay stubs look, they look good, and that all of your information is put together just so it's not set aside when it gets to the lender, and that's if it gets to the lender, because too often individuals come in and they say, well, I put all this information together, I sent it to my lender, and 4 weeks later I thought they had it and they never got it. It's critical that you follow up. This is information that you will get from a housing advisor that can help steer you through that process. So that's one of the reasons why it's very important to meet with a housing advisor while you're going through this process.
Carol, you're so right in doing this, because I've heard too many stories about the information not getting to the mortgage company or them losing it. Mm-hmm. But also at the mediation level, when you submit paperwork to the mortgage company, also submit a copy to the attorney. Why? Because the mortgage company has so many different offices or whatever. By submitting it to the attorney, if they come up at mediation and say, well, we didn't get it, well, the attorney got it. Oh, okay, good, we can get one from him. And that helps expedite the process, because there's no sense in you having to resubmit stuff again and again if you can't also, by submitting it to the mortgage company's attorney, help solve that issue. So that's really a nice thing to do. Mm-hmm. So what happens if you're successful at mediation? Yes, we got that mediation. Well, what does that mean? Understand the details. Like I said, the devil's in the details. Make sure you understand it. When you make the first payment, when you get a modification, lots of times what happens is the place where you make that payment changes. You don't send it to the same spot. You don't send the same amount of money in the same spot. How should I send it in? Certified check? What form do they request? And also, when is it due? Now, it's not when it gets in the mail. It's when it has to be in their office by a certain date.
That's right.
You have to make sure you make these payments and you make them on time, when and where they ask for you to make them. Because the last thing you want to do is, after getting a modification, saying, "Oh, well, you didn't submit it to the right place." You know, you won't get a third chance. So be careful with that. Is there a down payment to be made? You know, what do you do in order to keep everything on track? And once you do this, ask what's going to happen to the actual foreclosure case. Now, the mediator usually says, well, the case will be dismissed. Now, in actuality, what we've found is that doesn't happen immediately. What happens is the opposing counsel will keep that case going and confirm that the payments have been set up, the modification agreement has been signed, and that everything is done right before dismissing the case. So that's one of the things that the other thing to keep in mind with mediation is you understand exactly where you're going and where to go from there. But the other question is, what happens if you don't make the mediation or if you don't get an agreement? That's a real problem. And you have to be real careful at that time, because what you want to do is to make sure that you figure out what happened. When that happens, figure out exactly what type of, why was it denied?
That's where you want to ask a lot of questions.
Yeah.
You want to find out exactly why,
Right.
you know, you were denied.
In your package, in fact, it'll be on the website too. It's called a mediation checklist. It has you a detailed checklist of what things you need to ask and how you need to ask them and why. Because sometimes the numbers are transposed wrong, and or they wrote the wrong numbers down. Also, what programs did they evaluate you for? You know, did they consider you for all the available programs? You know, what really happened? Because sometimes the mortgage companies will only look at one or two programs that they are considering. That's why the housing counselor gets to be so important, because they know of all the other programs that are available that were not discussed or not brought up. But that's why you need to ask those questions at mediation and see what's going on. If you can, have the case continued. If they need additional information, keep it in mediation. Why? Because it gives you an opportunity to submit things. Lots of times we get to mediation, and what happens in mediation is they say, well, we don't have all the documentations. Okay, we'll get those to you. And what happens is the case is continued. Now, one of the things I love about this mediation process here in this county is what they do is that they will take it and continue the mediation process by way of a status conference and do it by way of email. It gives the homeowner a chance to submit that documentation electronically to the mortgage company within a week or two. And after that's done, to just simply take that information and, you know, allow the mortgage company to make that decision as to where to go from there. And that's so important at that stage. Why? Because it gives you a chance to get that information in, and case stays in mediation, and you send documents to the opposing counsel, and also you send documentation to the mortgage company and also the mediator, because you want to keep them informed as to exactly where you are in the process. So that's why it's important, okay? We want to give you every opportunity to get that modification, and at the same time to stay, you know, keep the case stayed in that form. So it's understandable. So the other question is, find out what's going to happen. And one of the things I want to bring up too is that, when is the answer due? I've had cases in mediation that were continued or stayed for 120 days, but the case was still in mediation at 120 days, and an answer became due. But you need to pay careful attention to the documentation you're given, because when the court grants the mediation, in that decision, we want you to pay careful, because it also tells you when the answer will become due. Some judges don't always do it the same. So sometimes the answer is 120 days, sometimes it's 30 days. So knowing when that becomes due, you know when you need to take the necessary action to go forward. Again, your answer is usually due within 28 days after the complaint is being served. The request for mediation extends the answer date and to delay the time. As I said, 120 days, sometimes the judge grants 30 days after the mediation is concluded. So it's so important to keep it abreast as to what's available and what needs to be done. Also, during this process, we want you to continue to work with the housing counselors, because we've had the problem sometimes of homeowners. They say, well, I'm at mediation now, but the housing counselor continues to work with you. Why? You get the mediation and say, well, we can't do that. What's the options? I think, Carol, your office has a wonderful plan. What's it called? And because they're always doing some wonderful stuff there with the action plan, and to let the homeowners know what's available and what they need to do. You want to tell us about what you guys do in that?
No problem. First of all, we do offer foreclosure prevention workshops at Homeport. We also offer one-on-one counseling sessions. So if you find yourself in a predicament where you are dealing with a foreclosure, or a foreclosure is on the horizon somewhere, we welcome you into our office. We welcome you to give us a call at 614-221-8889, extension 134, and they would be glad to schedule an appointment for you for whichever session is most appropriate. And we can walk you through the entire process of helping you to avoid foreclosure. Everything from just coming in and learning about some of the rules and some of what goes on to putting together a budget for you, helping you to understand where is your money going. Because sometimes when we get in these situations and these positions, we tend to end up in a fetal position, just not wanting to deal with any of it. We're not answering our mail, we're not answering our phone. We just don't really want to deal with it. And we try to help you come out of that position and begin to face things as they need to be. But again, we offer the budget assistance. We also offer an action plan which is basically something that just lays out what the roadmap is for you, what you need to do next. Because oftentimes that's what you need to know is, this is where I am. And I have no idea what I need to do next. All I know is that I want to save my home. And that's why housing counselors are there, so that we can assist the homeowner with that process.
I see. And I've been to mediation sessions where the homeowners come in with a detailed action plan from your office, which is really outstanding, because it gives them their options in terms of what things they really want the mortgage company to do. Mm-hmm. And that's always nice, because it kind of lays out a roadmap in which that individual homeowner needs to take in order to protect their home and to go forward at the mediation session. Sure. So that part is really very good. Again, we're talking about the answer. You still have to file the answer even at the end of the 28 days or whatever the time. An answer still needs to be filed. And no matter what you do, you need to file it. Franklin County has an email filing system now. And basically, which means that answers can be filed electronically. The problem with that is you want to make sure that your knowledge or lack of knowledge of doing things electronically doesn't interfere with you being able to keep the home. And that's a crucial thing. So one of the things I always tell people to do is, initially we were telling people to go down to the Franklin County Courthouse at 345 South High Street. It's on the first floor, right after you get past the metal detectors and the guards. They can tell you exactly where to go. And they will assist you in filing your answer or request for mediation. I've had one instance where the homeowner did that, but when it came down to filing answers before we got involved, attempted to do it electronically. and for whatever reason, the process did not go through, but we managed to catch it in time. So what I always tell homeowners to do is make certain, if you're going to do it, call their office. Let me give you the phone number down at the Franklin County Clerk of Court's office. It's 614-525-3621. I'll repeat that again. That is 614-525-3621. And what you want to do is confirm that they received it. Or if you like so many folks, if you goof it up sometimes, like I even do, I call. Now, I did something wrong. What did I do wrong? How did I correct it? And that's so important, because the last thing you want to do is to lose your home. Why? Because my computer skills were not up to where they needed to be. Your home is too important at this stage. So it gets down to, what do you do in the answer? Make sure you submit the answer, and you have to respond to the complaint. And in responding is not whether you owe the money. You're supposed to admit or deny the claims clearly enough, and raise some defenses. If you go to the Legal Aid website, we'll have some form answers that will be available to you. And I tell people, when you filing an answer, you have to understand that how many people watch, what's that show, Law and Order? And in Law and Order, if you plead guilty, what happens? You go straight to jail. They sentence you right up. You don't get a trial. The same thing happens in a civil end if you admit to say, I admit to all the allegations. There's nothing left to be discussed. So what you try to do is, and most people look at the amount of money that they're being sued for. How many people know exact to the penny how much money they owe? No one. So the amount that's being projected to you, you have no idea whether it's right or wrong. Okay? And that's an important issue. So you have to understand that. The next thing is their defenses in terms of FHA defenses. FHA defenses requires that if you live within 200 miles of any office that they have, that they would contact you and ask you to come in for a face-to-face meeting. And most, to 99% of the cases, the mortgage company never does that. Never does. And it's a defense that would allow you to say, listen, Judge, they didn't do this, and as such, they are not allowed to obtain a judgment against you at this time. They can dismiss it, but they can refile it, after they follow through the right process. Now, you have to be in a position to contest it. Why? Because the language in their document says, we comply with all the rules. Well, what did you do? Well, I don't know what we did, but we complied with them. Now, that's your time to say, listen, they didn't do it. They didn't contact me and ask for a face-to-face meeting. As such, they're not able to go forward. The next one is a real party in interest. The real party in interest is it's a funny one. And if you don't understand the concept, when you go to file a mortgage, obtain a mortgage, you go into the bank, you write out a loan, and then you make your payments back to the same mortgage company. What you don't realize is that when you first went into that mortgage company and you wrote the loan out, they took that loan and sold it to someone else. They kept the servicing of it. So it appears as though they're the same company who still owns it, but that's not the case. So that's something that they have to prove before they're able to go forward. So the state Supreme Court says they have to own it and also have possession of the note before they file the lawsuit, or at the time they file a lawsuit. Without it, they cannot go forward. That's one of the defenses. Next one we talked about is rescission. That has to do with refinancing and even a home equity loan within 3 years, if the rules aren't followed as far as that goes. But that's something a bit more technical, and you probably need the assistance of an attorney to do it. After the answer is filed, make sure you check online. There's a form in here that you can access to the internet. And it says how to check your docket. We'll post this also on the website. It gives instructions of where you can go to get access to the website. What that does, it allows you to see what documents have been filed. Also, they're in a PDF format. If you click on that PDF format, the document itself would appear at no charge to you. And you can print it out and know exactly what's been filed at that stage. And that part is really good, because sometimes you can go back and take another look at other documents you didn't get or you're not really sure of. And that part is really critical to making sure that you ever follow the process.
That's an excellent tool. We've had homeowners who have actually been up for share sale and they were homebound. They couldn't really get out of their home to, go and try to get these documents. But I tell you, just being able to get online and be able to see that docket, and they could see where their foreclosure sale, their share sale was actually dropped. So you can see all of that type of information on the docket. Every single thing that is going on in the homeowner's court case, foreclosure case, is all listed on that document. So that is an excellent tool.
Sure. Make sure you respond to any motions that the bank make. So it's really important, especially if they try to go for a default and you know that you filed an answer or have some action in terms of being able to refute that action as well. You might want to conduct discovery to help support your claims and just find out what's going on. At this stage, I always try to get homeowners to, if you can, get an attorney. Why? Because once you start getting beyond the mediation process, it gets to be extremely technical. And there are pitfalls out there that can really fall into that the normal homeowner is completely ill-equipped to master. So that's a stage when you find yourself at that point, make sure that you get proper legal counsel, because one of the things about discovery is they have this thing called admissions. Mm-hmm. And they will basically send you an admission saying, you admit that you owe the money, then you're in default. Now, if you don't respond to it, they're deemed to be true and admitted. And the court will take that and they can process a motion for summary judgment based upon your failure to answer in terms of admitting. So that's something you have to be really careful about at that stage. And clearly, whenever possible, make sure you get legal counsel at that stage. The whole legal process can go from months over to years, depending on how long the process is being dragged out. It can be. As I say, I have had clients who were at a sheriff's sale. They were able to stop the sheriff's sale, have a mediation, and successfully work out a modification for the homeowners. So that being the case, we don't want you to give up, and that's why. What's the benefits of having an attorney? They can argue on your behalf. Now, let me share something with you. I've gone to mediation sessions, and let me tell you, we've had fun at mediations. One of my clients basically one time was yelling and screaming at the other side. I said, wait a minute. We're trying to get a modification for you. And once they were able to get my own client calmed, I was able to turn to the mortgage company and says, what do you need for us to get this modification? They let us know what we needed. We were able to get the information in, and we were able to get the home mortgage modified. And the homeowner was able to keep the home. I always tell people that when you in these particular positions, the pressure is extremely high. There was this one guy who was a soldier, a veteran who had been in Iraq on 2 tours of duty, who came back and said that the foreclosure process is much more stressful than actual combat. So keep that in mind. You are under a great deal of pressure. Don't scream at the mortgage company, okay? Even plaintiff's attorneys have come to me and said, Mr. Ross, whatever you do, don't make sure your clients don't yell at the mortgage representative. They're working too. So you have to keep that in mind. And that brings up a thing that happened to me. I think my buddy's mom used to work at Defense Construction Supply. And she told me, and I didn't ask her, she just brought this up. It said one time she got a phone call from this lady in California. Chewed her out. I said, she said, you guys are always late. I want you to get up off of your duff and get this paperwork processed, and you guys better hurry up and do it. So I asked her, what did you do? She says, well, for 20 business days, I did nothing. If you ever read any of the business regs, they give the workers 20 days to do anything. And 20 business days is really 1 month. And I said, well, what did you do after the end of the 20 business days? Well, what I did was I stuck it under the secretary's stack and told her no rush. Now, it was obvious to me the lady in California completely blew it. What you have is an opportunity to speak with the mortgage company and to get them to help you keep your home. The magic words all the lady from California had to say is, listen, honey, my boss is on my case. Could you help me? She would have not only done the work right there, she would have typed it up herself and FedExed it out the next day. That's the type of help that you're looking for in your mortgage. So when talking to the folks at the mortgage company, make certain that you don't alienate them. And they might screw up. Yeah, we all screw up. But at the same time, you want them to help fix the problem. And chewing them out won't work. What are you talking about, Mr. Ross? Let me give you an example. You're working with someone who's trying to help you. If they screw up to the high heavens, don't scream at them. If you find yourself talking to their boss, let them know that you have a wonderful worker. She's trying her best, and I know you guys can, you can really get this stuff together. And since you're there, I know you can help her. What you've done is basically eliminate yourself as a problem, and you've gone to the next level, and you're talking to someone who is in a position who can help you and says, well, my worker screwed up, but I have to help my worker, and you want them to help you in the same time. Keep that in mind. Most people, as government agencies or private businesses, if given the opportunity to help someone, they will do it. Use it to your advantage. Why? Because you want to keep your home, and it's a nice opportunity to do it. Okay?
And William, I was just going to share that, it is critical as a homeowner when you are speaking with the lender. For any reason, you never know which representative can really, really help you out. So it's very important to be very patient. All right, because in this process, it can be completely frustrating. You're already frustrated when you go to or have to call the lender. But you also want to be very flexible. Understand that even if you've already sent that set of documents to your lender, that application, you still want to be very flexible if they request that you send it back again. And be kind. All right, it's always critical to treat others as you would have them treat you. Be very kind with them because, again, you never know when you need that person, and that person holds the key to getting you to that next level of help and assistance that you need.
Another thing I've learned to do is that, we find ourselves in difficult situations. And if you don't take it personally, in fact, if you treat it like a game, it makes it light. What are you talking about, Mr. Ross? Well, let me go a little bit off topic, but years ago I bought this car. Nice car. I thought it was under warranty. And what happened was, on the way home, I got caught in traffic. And I looked up and I said, somebody's spraying mosquitoes, Lo and behold, it was a car I just bought. It was smoking like crazy. Whoa. It's like, oh my goodness. Well, when I got home, I looked on the back of it, had the dealership's name on it, so I called that. And said, because they keep the records of the cars. This was December. Yeah, we had that car in April, and what happened to that car? It had sludge in the engine. Ooh. I said, okay. And I said, well, we told the then owner that if they can prove they've been changing the oil regular, that, we'll fix it free of charge. Okay, call the person I bought it from. Oh, we had that fixed at another dealership. I said, oh, okay. I didn't get angry. In fact, I didn't even tell them I was a lawyer. I took the car in, dropped it off. They said, pull the valve cover gaskets, and I want you to confirm that there's sludge in the engine. They pulled the valve cover gaskets, sludge in the engine. Mr. Ross, we found sludge in the engine. Well, that's good. Take your camera out and take some pictures. Oh, we don't have a camera. I said, buy one. I said, well, we need to let our own representative look at this. And, Christmas holidays, and I said, well, I won't be around for a while. But can you keep it for a while? He said, oh, yeah, we'll look at it. About a week or so later, they called me back. Mr. Ross, your car's ready. I said, what do you mean? He said, oh, we fixed it. I said, what did you do? We changed the engine. I said, my cost or yours? I said, oh, it's our cost. I said, oh, well, thank you then. Now, had I gotten angry, yelled and screamed, pounded the table, they wouldn't have helped me. The same thing when it comes to your mortgage. You have an opportunity to speak with one of the representatives at the mortgage company. And if you do your job well enough, the person you're working with can help you process it. How am I talking about? Sometimes the person on the phone takes it to different underwriters. If they like you, they know which underwriters are good, that approve them. They know which ones that disapprove them. They like you. They're going to make sure your application gets to the underwriter who will approve it. You understand? That's a wonderful advantage. Make sure you take full advantage of it. You know, these are just some of the things that lawyers can do in terms of giving you ideas of how to do things. In addition to identify defenses, navigate you through the course, and also, of course, the non-legal resources. This brings us to the other concept of partial claims. For those of you who are not able to participate in the Save the Dream program, you're looking for additional resources to help make up for those missed payments. And a partial claim, what's a partial claim? A partial claim is like you have, what do you call that? The insurance that goes with the mortgage?
The mortgage insurance.
Private mortgage insurance. That's not homeowners insurance. That's private mortgage insurance. That for the 20% that you don't have the 20% down payment, it allows you to pay that insurance. And what does insurance do? It pays the 20% in case you can't make it or if you should default.
Pays your lender.
It pays the lender, not you. But the private mortgage insurance will say, listen, we're on the hook for 20%. Now, if we give the client enough money to make up that amount to become current, we save ourselves from paying the full amount. And that's an additional source that can be really helpful in assisting you in keeping your home. Now, you have FHA, VA, all of these insured mortgages have that built in. Otherwise, it's looking for a straight private mortgage insurance plan. And that's what you're trying to do. Force-placed insurance. Oh, my goodness. Force-placed insurance. How many people here know what force-placed insurance might be? Well, if you ever bought a new car and didn't have insurance on it, and the bank realized you don't have insurance, they will put their own insurance on it and then bill you for it.
That's right.
But their rate of insurance is, let's say, 4 times or more higher than what you would pay.
Right.
It only covers the vehicle. In this case, it would only cover the home, not your personal contents, just the home. If there's any type of loss to the home, they would get paid. Your private stuff in there would not be covered. And the stuff you own would not be covered. And the problem is, if your mortgage, if the payment was usually $400, theirs was like $1,200. Now, what's insidious about this is during the mortgage time, and if you have your accounts escrowed, and if there's been a substantial time period between the time period you made a payment and the time period that your next insurance premium is due, if there's not enough money in escrow, the mortgage company will then put force-based insurance on. But they won't tell you. They will, in essence, jack up the amount that you have to pay on a monthly basis. And if you question it, the response is, well, you had insufficient escrow. So take the time now, contact your insurance agent to make sure that the payment is current and due, current and paid. If it's not, make sure you pay it. And once you pay it, get verification of that payment and share that with the mortgage company to make sure that if they put force-placed insurance on, they take it off. If they haven't, don't let them do it. Because you're trying to reduce your mortgage payment in terms of a modification, not raise it. And that's a critical instance. And I've gotten into some heated discussions with mortgage companies trying to do that when that's not the case. So pay very careful attention to that, and you want to make sure that you're able to take care and proceed with that. Foreclosure alternatives. Sometimes you just don't want the house. I want to move. And we're advising the homeowners to stay in the home as long as you can. Every month you're staying there, you're not paying rent someplace else. That's the first thing. And second thing is the mortgage company really doesn't want to have a vacant home where it can be left open to people to come in, steal the plumbing, the wiring, and all that other stuff. So make sure that if you to do that. And when it's time for you to leave, say, well, Mr. Mortgage Company, I want to leave. How about give me $3,000 to move? Wait a minute. Well, now, and they've been known to do it. They'll come in and pay you. What they ask you to do, though, is to leave the home in a, how do you say, broom swept condition. in essence, take your junk out of it. Don't leave your junk there, and sweep it out, make sure. And don't take the plumbing and the wiring and all that stuff, and that's what they're trying to do. Another option sometimes is a short sale. You can't make the payments. You can basically sell the house or have someone else buy the house for less than what's owed. What that allows them to do is allows an orderly transition. Now, make sure you get, when you do this, make sure you get everything in writing and make sure you read it carefully. Why? Because we're going to talk about a deficiency in a minute. And that's the money between the difference between what you owe and what the place sells for. You want that in writing, that you're not going to be held liable for that amount. That's going to be critical. So when I say in writing, make sure you do that. Deed in lieu. What deed in lieu is, basically you sign the deed over to the mortgage company. That's only possible if you don't owe anyone else or any other liens on the property. Because what that does is when the mortgage company takes the property at that stage, they take it subject to any deeds or liens that might be on the property at that time. You probably noticed that when the lawsuit was filed, they filed an action of husband, wife, unknown spouse, unknown tenant. And what they're trying to do is to extinguish any type of other rights that might exist in the property. If there's another lien on the property, they put that name down. They always name the Franklin County Treasurer because the lien, there's always unpaid taxes or the concept of unpaid taxes, and you have to bring him into the case too to make sure that everything is extinguished. And besides, the treasurer gets the money up front anyway, so that's not going to make a difference for them. But what they're trying to do is get a clean title, and if you can't deliver a clean title in a deed in lieu, chances are they don't want that. Okay. Sometimes it's called cash for keys. You still want the $3,000 you will give cash for keys. I'll give you a place. But that's something to keep in mind. And finally, there's a consent judgment. And I can't vote well with simply saying, okay, I give up. Because you need some type of protections from a deficiency or at least get something out of it. Just don't move. And we'll try to work something out with them. Deficiencies. Like I say, the foreclosure alternatives, the bank can agree not to come after you for the balance owed. And that's going to be critical. Make sure you get it in writing. As I said before, anytime you get something in writing from the bank, make sure you read it carefully. Because quite often we find that documents that you've received, even though you've been negotiating with the mortgage company and you're talking with one particular person, they're not the person who drafted the paperwork. Make sure it says exactly what you are agreeing to. And so keep that in mind. The idea of, once the sheriff's sale, technically it's a judgment against you and they take the balance from the sheriff's sale. But still, you still owe the money. This brings us to scams. Oh my goodness, scams. Every time I look around, there's a brand new scam out there, and if you don't watch it, they always come out and get you. And how many people around here have seen these houses, these signs on the road, we will buy you ugly house, or we buy houses? Quite often, those are scams. What happens is they will buy your house, or first of all, if it's in a foreclosure action, they will buy your house, not the debt. And then you're out of the house. They don't pay off the balance. The foreclosure is still going on. And you're still on the hook for that. And in the meantime, you're not in the house. You're not getting paid. You're paying rent or mortgage someplace else. And you're still losing. So the concept is, and that's just one of the many ones out there, that are designed to take as much money from you as possible. And you have to be so careful with them. One of the things, I think years ago, I had one client who, we had a housing counselor, we had the legal office, and they were sending information to some other choice. And I said, what in the heck is this? They showed me the paperwork. At the top of it was the mortgage company, big bold lines. And at the very bottom in fine print, it said, we have nothing to do with the mortgage company at all. I said, what the heck? Anyway, we had mediation the next day. the client was calling the cell phone. And it was the same folks. So I asked them, like, what are you guys doing? Well, we're trying to get information to turn over to the court. I said, good. Now, up to that time, they hadn't asked him any money. I asked them, well, send me the information, I'll give it to the court. Oh, we got to get paid first. Then the next thing they said was most insightful. Well, she's not a sheriff's sale, is she? Which meant they weren't planning on doing anything anyway. And what they wanted to do is have a sheriff's sale and come back and put as much pressure as they could on the homeowner to make a payment to them. And they still weren't going to do anything. So be mindful of these scams. They're out there, and you have to watch out. If they guarantee that, by golly, we're going to guarantee we're going to save your house. I've been practicing law for too many years, and I have not been able to guarantee anything in terms of cases. You cannot do that because you don't know what's going to happen. And that tells you, or should be a red flag to go out to say, listen, they can't be trusted. Make sure you go the other direction. Again, legal aid is free. The housing counsels are free. There are other sources, State Attorney General's Office, Federal Trade Commission, Better Business Bureau. And the idea is you want to make sure that you take everything you can to keep your home. We mentioned save your money earlier. One of the things about saving your money is sometimes you get to the point where they aren't going to take an agreement. Well, you say, well, Mr. Mortgage Company, I got this money I've been saving over here. And now, I'll be frank with you. I've spoke to representatives from the mortgage company, and they'll tell you, unlike a divorce case or whatever, we know what the mortgage company wants. They want money. And when you get a chance to offer some money, it's like, whoa, let's take a little look at this. And they're trying to figure out a best way that they can get the money, and at the same time, you want to keep your home. That can be very important. The last thing you want to do by not saving up money, you go to court and the judge says, well, Mr. Ross, how much money has your client been able to save during this 18 months that they've been not making a mortgage payment? And I turn to my client and they don't have any money. And it's like, oh no, we're in trouble now. So the idea is you want to save up as much money as you can. It helps during negotiation. And even if you decide that you don't want to keep the home, save up your money, because it gives you an opportunity to take that and move someplace else.
That's right.
And that can be very crucial. And all during this process, understand something. As homeowners, you have an opportunity to decide, do you really want to keep this house? What am I talking about? What's happening now with a lot of these deals, the mortgage company is saying, listen, what we're going to do is that we're going to take the amount of missed payments, we're going to put it at the end of the note. We're going to reduce your interest rate where you can afford it now, but you can very easily find yourself in a position where you got a $70,000 house, but by the time you finish, you owe $120,000 for it. Is it something you really want to get into? Now, I don't know about your neighborhood, but houses in mine have been going down in value. Foreclosed houses sold the other month for $31,000. And if you're owing $70-some thousand or $80-some thousand in that same neighborhood, is that something you really want to consider? That's a personal decision. A lot of homeowners get caught up in the fact that, oh, it's my home, I want to keep my home. Listen, you can always buy another house, a better deal, because you put yourself into a straitjacket for the next 30-some years, making a payment on this house that guaranteed you still have to fix it up and it's in poor condition. What do you really want? But that's a decision as a homeowner that you have to make for yourself, okay? But as always, that's what we're here for, to help you make those decisions. In conclusion, we want you to file a mediation request as soon as possible. Refer to the foreclosure checklist. In that process, that's your Bible. Read through it carefully before you go to mediation. Make sure you fully understand it, because that's going to give you your best options in mediation. And of course, make certain you work with the housing counselor not just once, but continuously in this process, because things are changing, okay? And you have to make sure that you get the best help that you can. The Legal Aid Society of Columbus prepares free legal counseling, and submit an application to us. We can do it online. And for those of us here, let me give you the number. It's 614-241-2001. Now repeat that. 614-241-2001. And make sure you give us a call. And because what you're trying to do is get quality legal representation. And hey, it's free. I tell people, don't turn down money, and if it's free, make sure. One of my personal things I always tell opposing counsels when I say, well, at Legal Aid, we give out free legal counseling. I said, yeah. I said, sometimes, since it's so free, I'm tempted to get in line myself. But the only problem is if I got in line, I would just be getting in line to talk to myself, but that doesn't work. So how you doing?
I am doing wonderful. Would you mind if I gave our information, our contact information once again?
Sure, go ahead.
All right. To contact Homeport and to schedule an appointment, a one-on-one, I encourage you to schedule a one-on-one appointment with one of our housing advisor over at Homeport. The number is 614-221-8889, extension 134. Again, that number to schedule a one-on-one housing counseling appointment is 614-221-8889, extension 134. And we certainly look forward to you all contacting us and us beginning a relationship to get the ship turned around and to get you back to a happy place again.
And Homeport's not the only housing counseling agency in town. We have Mid-Ohio Regional Planning, and we have the Columbus Urban League, Homes on the Hill, and also we have a Pricing. We'll kind of post all this stuff online that you'll be able to get access and to their offices as well.
Absolutely.
And all of them provide excellent housing counselors, and they fall within that category. As I always say, those are the real angels that can help you keep your home.
Absolutely.
So those are just some of the things that we're sharing with you.